and lovers of freedom all over the world. You are welcome to Biafra Battle Cry TV. We brought to you Tinubu regime as disaster trying to succeed the Buhari's regime. In the show today is information shows Matawalle was fully involved in banditry, Zamfara government. Zamfara State Governor, Dauda Lawal, has alleged that his predecessor and current Minister of State for Defense, Bello Matawalle, was involved in banditry activities. Lawal, who made the claim on Wednesday on Television Continental, TVC, alleged that Matawalle kept some bandits in the Zamfara State Government House. He also alleged that when the children of a permanent secretary were kidnapped, ransom was paid through the government house. There were a lot of issues in the past with my predecessor, Lawal said. In fact, let me say this very categorically. If I were him, I would resign and face all the allegations against me. That would have been more honorable because, from all the information we're getting, my predecessor was fully involved in some of these banditry issues. Typical is the fact that there was a permanent secretary whose children were abducted. It was unfortunate that he had to pay a ransom through the government house. And it was also very clear, based on all the allegations, that bandits were being kept at the government house. You know, there are so many issues. Describing Matawalle's appointment as Minister of State for Defense by President Bola Tinubu as unfair to the people of Zamfara, Lawal advised the former governor to resign from his position and clear his name. So for me, honestly, if I were him, I would step aside and face this allegation until I clear my name before coming back to continue my job, he added. That would have been more honorable. And how can you imagine all these allegations against him, and he's still the Minister of Defense? I mean, that is unfair. This man could have been honorable, stayed aside, faced all these allegations, cleared his name, and then come back and continue to do whatever he wants to do. He stated that whether Matawalle wanted to remain as a minister or pursue something else, stepping aside would have been more honorable in his view, adding that if he was in his predecessor's position, he would resign. On September 20, 2024, Matawalle publicly swore with Quran that he had no link with bandits. Shinkafi replies Dauda. Sani Shinkafi, a former governorship candidate in Zamfara State and ex-special advisor to erstwhile governor, Bello Matawalle, has warned the governor of the state, Dauda Lawal, to desist from sharing what he, Shinkafi, described as false allegations against fellow politicians from the state. According to him, some of the governor's actions depict a man who is ignorant of the law and afraid of the Minister of State for Defense, Dr. Bello Matawalle's rising profile. Shinkafi wants Lawal to clear his name over an alleged leaked memo on his government's link with bandits that has gone viral on social media. Daily Post reports that a memo appeared on social media recently, showing how the government allegedly paid bandits. In a counter-allegation, Governor Lawal accused his predecessor of involvement in banditry activities. According to the governor, the minister was shielding bandits and keeping some of them in the Zamfara State Government House. He stated this on Wednesday in an interview with TVC, demanding that Matawalle resign his position as Minister of State for Defense, adding that such people are not fit to be in charge of the nation's security. In a statement he signed and made available to the media on Friday under the Patriots for Peace and Social Development, Shinkafi urged members of the public not to be deceived by the governor. It has become necessary to set the record straight to ensure that members of the public will not be misled and deceived by the tissue of lies, political sentiment, and power intoxication of the governor, who ought to be an embodiment of patriotism, the statement said. It has been the pastime of Governor Lawal to rush to television stations to disparage Dr. Bello Matawalle, permanently angry that President Bola Tinubu appointed him the Minister of State for Defense against his wish, as if his myopic political interest should supersede national interest at a time of unprecedented insecurity in the country. Matawalle, a devout Muslim, publicly held the Holy Quran in Government House Gusau and swore that he had no link with bandits. The deputy governor, commissioners, special advisors, and permanent secretaries also took the same oath. It is unfortunate that Dauda Lawal would be on national television stations to blackmail him with impunity, leveraging his immunity as a serving governor, as if being a governor is a license to insult fellow citizens. In a flagrant show of executive rascality, Governor Lawal has displaced his media aides as an unguarded attack dog, setting aside decency, decorum, and dignity expected of a governor, to the embarrassment of the good people of Zamfara State. It is obvious that Matawalle inherited armed banditry from the government of his predecessor, Senator Abdulaziz Yari. He set out to tackle it head-on, adopting kinetic and non-kinetic approaches, which yielded positive results, leading to the voluntary surrender of over 5,000 locally made guns, AK-47s, AK-49s, rocket launchers, general-purpose machine guns, and chains of arms and ammunition by repentant bandits and defunct Yansakai, in the presence of then-Governor Bello Matawalle, security chiefs in Zamfara State, traditional rulers, Islamic scholars, etc. Government is a continuum. Instead of focusing on good governance, Dauda Lawal would either junket around the globe seeking elusive investments while the state burns, or jump from one television station to another reeling out unfounded allegations against the Honorable Minister of State for Defense, in a clear case of inferiority complex and incompetence. This politics of bitterness is outdated, uncivilized, and capable of derailing the nation's hard-earned democracy. Governor Lawal's outbursts on national television stations were a serious disservice to the nation and an embarrassment to the good people of Zamfara State. Lawal allowed his increasing fear of Matawalle to blindfold him and question his patriotism. It is sad that Governor Lawal has reduced governance to propaganda and child's play. His call for Matawalle to resign and clear his name of alleged financial impropriety while in office as governor is laughable and a joke taken too far. It shows that Lawal is totally ignorant of the meaning of false allegations and indictment by a court of competent jurisdiction. Who is Bello Matawalle? He previously served as the governor of Zamfara State from 2019 to 2023. And now Minister of State for Defense, incumbent. Who assumed office the 21st of August, 2023 under Bola Tinubu administration. Please share, like, and subscribe to our channel. See you soon on another video. Thanks for watching.
The crimes you have in the north, the insecurity you have in the north is as a direct consequence of their own action. They groomed them. Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb, ISIS in West Africa, Boko Haram, Fulani headsmen, bandits, all of them. Who brought them to Nigeria?
Like I said, we know where these guys are. We know where they live. We know their parents.
You know them as a government.
Of course we do. They live with the same community we live.
So why is it difficult to get them?
That is the $1 million question that I should ask you.
We are trying to understand, for those of us who are now conversant with Zamfara, have never been there, and we hear you as a chief security officer speak tonight to say you know these people, but yet you can't get them. It's a head scratcher. The story that was out there with the change of the commandant was that he raised some concerns and accusations that the outfit is not being equipped and is not being funded to fight the war you have set us up for. And then he was changed a couple of weeks after.
That is not true. If you had listened to the police when he was arrested and interrogated, it was a different story. What we found out was that he was fully involved in that operation in Mada. The records are there. You can get this information from the Commissioner of Police in Zamfara State. So it's not true.
Great. Mr. Governor, I'd like to take you back to my first question when I asked you about what your state was actually dealing with. Because we hear banditry in Zamfara in the northwest of Nigeria. But by our understanding, and the simplest definition of banditry, involves groups of armed thieves. So these are thieves with just arms. Yet the challenge seems, grave, that the Northwest, and particularly Zamfara State, is not able to deal with a group of thieves who have arms. So do you feel the narrative is correct to say what you're dealing with in your state is banditry, or is it something more grave than that?
Well, it all depends on classification. You can call them bandits, you can call them thieves, you can call them any name. But my understanding is what will be the reason for these banditry activities. That is number one. Two, if you talk about Niger Delta, I will say yes, there's an economic reason why people are fighting to get certain things. If you look at Boko Haram, you will say that it's a religious issue because they believe in their faith, and therefore they want to defend their faith. What is the reason in Zamfara? We are the same people, 99.9% same religion. So what is the reason? What are they fighting for? This is the question.
Have you been able to find an answer to that question?
That is still what we're trying to do, because I cannot understand why. And imagine if today they're going after government officials. They say, okay, they have grievances with government officials, but they kill innocent people that barely even eat 1 square meal in a day. What could have been the reason? That must be crazy. And that is still what we're trying to find out. And to deal with that is, you need to deal with these people decisively.
And in taking that decisive measures, let's talk about the role of the federal government in all of this, because so far it's been your effort we've talked about. How much of an influence does the federal government have in, or has in, fighting this war with you in Zamfara State? What's been the involvement of the federal government?
The security situation is not just for Zamfara. It's across all the northern part. However, Zamfara play a dominant role in terms of the banditry, because this is where they hibernate. They move from Zamfara to Katsina, Niger, Kaduna, Sokoto, and so on and so forth. And you know, it's the responsibility of federal government to provide safety of people, lives and property, which is the security forces that include the military, the police, as well as civil defense. Yeah, they're doing their best. However, there's a need to do more to deal with these guys decisively. Like I said, we know where these guys are. We know where they live. We know their parents.
You know them as a government?
Of course we do. They live with the same community we live.
So why is it difficult to get them?
That is the $1 million question that I should ask you.
We are trying to understand, for those of us who are now conversant with Zamfara, have never been there, and we hear you as a chief security officer speak tonight to say you know these people, but yet you can't get them. It's a head scratcher.
It is something that we are trying to all put our heads together. That is why, from what I can do as a governor, to have this CPG as a first line of defense. Of course, military are there, police are there, as well as civil defense, but they are not under my control. They are under the control of federal government, and they are doing their best. And like I said also, our security forces have the ability to crush these guys.
But they are not.
They're trying their best.
Trying their best.
Like what happened within the last 3 days when one of the major kingpin, Halilu Sububu, was killed. It is a combination of both military as well as the CPG and the community that made it possible. And I commend them for that.
Okay, I wanted to take you back to one of the questions you raised tonight about what is fueling this in Zamfara, because you seem to say, it doesn't look like there's a religion undertone to it. The people they kill are also poor, so they're
very poor for that matter.
So there is no
barely surviving.
To go after them. But there's a question of the mining, the natural resources in Zamfara State. Don't you think that is enough to fuel all of this in Zamfara State? And I wanted you to answer if the ban placed by the federal government is still in place on mining in your state.
The ban has been in place since 2018, so it's nothing new. I also met it. What I did on my own part is to also make sure the traditional institution do not give this consent form or consent letter for any mining activity in Zamfara State. And it's one reason why we had to issue an executive order that will stop giving out consent letters on mining by traditional rulers. Now, yes, there is a kind of correlation between insecurity and mining. And that's the reason why we're making conscious effort to have a clear understanding between the state and the federal government on what will be the best way to go about it. Of course, it's about revenue as far as I'm concerned. If we're able to get it together and make it functional, that means there's an additional revenue that will be coming to state government, which will be used in making some significant projects that will be for the benefit of our people. And I'm happy there's that synergy now between the state and the federal government in terms of mining activities on what will be the way forward. We're trying to fine-tune the whole thing.
Okay, so if I understand you, this ban on mining that has been in place hasn't really shifted the needle in terms of the nexus between mining or illegal mining and security in the state.
What I'm hearing is that some of the bandits are also engaged in some mining activities. For example, the guy that was killed 3 days ago, the Halilu Subu. But the rest are just artisanal miners, so to say. So it is something, like I say, we're trying to fine-tune to understand what is really happening and what would be the best way to make it effective and functional, so that in the long run, there will be revenue coming to both federal and the state government.
The crimes you have in the north, the insecurity you have in the north is as a direct consequence of their own action. They groomed them. Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb, ISIS in West Africa, Boko Haram, Fulani headsmen, bandits, all of them. Who brought them to Nigeria? It's Fulani. Fulani brought them into Nigeria. El-Rufai brought them in. Bauchi State Governor brought them in. Are you people deaf and dumb and stupid? When you come out and you pretend, oh, we are one Nigeria, go and show me. Somebody was asking, where is the boundary, where would the boundary of Biafra begin? And I asked the fool, where did the boundary of Nigeria begin? People from Niger come in and go as they like. Most of these idiots are from Niger. They are building a pipeline to Niger. They are building a railway line to Niger. They are building roads to Niger. Whereas where the money comes from, which is Biafra land, we don't have those infrastructure. No, we don't. But you're taking our money. You come to Izombe, you come to Ohaji, you come to Ebema, you come to Aguleri, you come to Ebonyi. You take our resources, sell it, get the money, and now you're building a way to Niger Republic. And you want me to be happy with you? Clap for you. Oh, Nigeria is still where one Nigeria.
There were a lot of issues in the past with my predecessor. You know, in fact, let me say this very categorical. If I were him, I would resign and face all the allegations against me. And that would have been more honorable, because from all the information we're getting, my predecessor was fully involved in some of these banditry issues. Typical is the fact that that was a permanent secretary when his children were abducted. And it was unfortunate that he had to pay ransom through the government house. And it was also very clear, based on all the allegations, that bandits were being kept at government house. You know, there are so many issues. So for me, honestly, if I were him, I'll step aside and face this allegation until I clear my name before I come back and continue my job. That should have been more honorable. And how can you imagine all these allegations against him? And he's still the Minister of Defense. I mean, that is unfair. This man could have been honorable, stay aside, face all these allegations, clear his name, and then come back and continue to do whatever he wants to do. Whether he wants to remain as minister or he wants to do something else, that would have been more honorable as far as I'm concerned. If I'm in that position, believe me, I'll put in my resignation letter.
Well, Your Excellency, he has not been nailed by the EFCC, so why do you think he should have been probed before taking up the appointment?
You know, in May last year, 2023, there was this allegation of misappropriating over 70 billion naira. And when we took over, we realized that that 70 billion was a child's play compared to what we have. And all this information are before the EFCC. And I wonder how this guy was cleared by the security operatives before it's confirmed